Thank you for joining us here on The Factor Uncensored, and we appreciate you staying up late with us. First up on The Factor, we start off tonight's show talking about a grueling situation. A 12-year-old girl is accused of smothering and killing her 8-year-old cousin over an iPhone on July 15th in Humboldt, Tennessee. They were both visiting their grandmother's house. Now, according to the county's prosecutor, a security camera recorded the killing inside the bedroom the young girl shared. The recording shows the older child using bedding to suffocate her cousin as she slept in the top bunk. After the child died, the 12-year-old cleaned up the victim and repositioned her body in bed. We have with us to talk about this tonight therapist Dr. Jasmine Boone and fathers Lewis Hunter. So, Lewis, as a father, when you first read this story and saw the video reports, your thoughts about
Now, before he goes, I just want to chime in and say something. It's very, very important that we maintain awareness of what this society is about, the vibration of it, why these things ensue, why these things persist, why these things occur. It's because of the vibration of this society and how it's becoming more and more and more wicked, more and more left. This is why, I have a video where I'm going into the aspect of the agenda that's being driven when it comes to transgenderism on the young kids. I made a point about how when we were kids, when we was going to school, we wasn't taught transgenderism and homosexuality like these kids are, because my young boy, he brought up the point of how these gay guys came to the school and were teaching about their journey to becoming gay, and it had nothing to do with any sort of scholastics or academics. So my point is, we live in a world where you can tell that these times measure up with, what's near. It's pretty much Satan coming down with great wrath because he knows that he hath but a short time. It's really ramping up. And I say that to say that the energy is permitting people to go into their demon mode, even a child. And part of it could be because, the family is probably demonic. It probably got some demonic history in the family, because for a child to do something like that, that's on a different level. And to be aware of what they've done, because they repositioned the body after they killed the 8-year-old kid, like that's just beyond wicked. Like, what's going on? There has to be some sort of spiritual element to that situation, because that right there, that's demonic. Like, that's beyond wicked. That's just what's going on, And what the woman said is just plain nonsense. This is how you know that certain females, when it comes to psychology, they just shouldn't be in certain positions, because they have no idea what the fuck they be talking about. Because she's going to justify it a little bit by saying that it could be a mental health thing, and she's not the same way she's going to be when she's 24. Like, what are you talking about? We're going to get into it, though. Excuse me.
To the extent that I realize the world that we live in today. The fact that you could have a 12 and 8-year-old fighting over an iPhone, cousins, mind you, at grandmother's house, and then have the 12-year-old kill her cousin and then come back and position the body and try to cover up what she had done. That doesn't happen overnight. That's right. Not something, you don't jump from. Most juvenile crimes are property-related, burglary, vandalism, but you killed your cousin behind an iPhone. They need to lock her ass up.
and got back in the bed.
And
went to sleep.
And I also read, I'm glad you mentioned that, because they said that they didn't find out until like a day or two later, I think.
They had to go watch the video. The grandmother. And imagine what it was like for the grandmother to go and view that video for the first time.
But it also makes me question, why is there a camera in an 8-year-old's room? A 12-year-old's room. Mm-hmm. So there had to have been behavioral issues before that had not been addressed. And I'm sure they're going to scream mental health and, all this other mess. And I'm curious to know what sort of mental health issues or therapy that she may have had before this.
All right, Dr. Jasmine Boone, your thoughts on this disturbing situation?
It's so unfortunate, and it's so like no one wins. Poor grandma, poor moms that lost both of their babies one way or the other. But you know, we don't know. You know, according to the article and news, there's no speculation of mental health issues. So ruling that out, we do have to take into consideration that this girl, this 12-year-old, her brain is not fully developed, right? So we're talking about the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for decision making, consequences, the pros and cons, weighing them out before making the decision, long-term consequences, like all the things that the prefrontal cortex is responsible for. She hasn't matured into that yet, and won't for another 12 or 13 years.
Prosecutors don't care about that. They want to try her as an adult.
They want to try her as an adult, but who she is at 12 will not be who she is at 24, 30, 40. Like literally, her brain is not fully matured, right? And so I personally and professionally don't think she should be tried as an adult. I think there is a desensitization that's taking place with the social media and all that good stuff, where she may know, like, I want to kill her, but you don't know the gravity and the long-term impact of your decision. And so I don't know that trying her as an adult is fair.
And before we get to you, Lewis, one of the issues I have here is when we as a society, all of us, covet a phone.
Oh my God.
It's a electronic device, but in this case, we're willing allegedly to kill for it.
Absolutely.
And adults are even worse.
We see it even in toddlers. The phone is like a deity now. It's like a god to a lot of these younger kids, where
A Bible where the Bible never could get. In our hands.
That's a word. I love that. Absolutely. It is sending them into a tizzy, and we have to pay attention to this, because not only is it the phone, like what are they watching? In researching this, I just randomly decided to just scroll Instagram and came across 5 murders or clips that were leading to a murder before it got cut off. We shouldn't be exposed to this on a daily. Like, we shouldn't have access to this, and we're adults. So think about an adolescent or a child.
I would like to know what's going on with the gluteus maximus cortex part of this kid. You know, how many ass whoopings has this kid gotten leading up to this? You know, there had to have been a discipline issue leading up to this. This just does not happen, you know, overnight. And so I would really like to know, you know, what sort of discipline. I think discipline is a big issue.
Yeah.
Lazy parenting. I think cell phones has a lot to do with lazy parenting. You know, you throw them a phone or a tablet, they're out of your hair for a while. You can watch whatever reality show or whatever you're into on television. You get some quiet time for yourself. I know that they charged this child with, or from what I understand, they've charged her with first-degree murder. But like I said, like she said, there's a lot of talk right now as to whether or not you can charge this young lady. And it's become real unpopular over the last 20 years for judges to prosecute young children as adults. And as a result, the way that the statistics read is as though juvenile crime has gone down. But I think that the reality is that not as many of them are being prosecuted, because it affects the professional resume of a judge who may want to move on to higher elected positions.
Listen, man, at the end of the day, when it comes to what this woman was talking about, you know, some of it was, you know, there, but for the most part, she didn't make no goddamn sense. It's like you can't justify it by saying it's a mental health issue and, you know, this person is going to be different than how she is at the age of 12. How does that justify it? And we already understand the woman, they don't really mature, but she doesn't understand that. And aside from that, like, you could tell that these people, they don't really be informed as they should be when it comes to these situations, because even the guy, he said, why is it a camera in the 12-year-old's room? They was not in their home. They was in their grandmother's home. So they must have been in their grandmother's room or something like that. So it's like, that shouldn't even be a question. I mean, it's supervision. It should be a camera in the room. And not even from supervision, but just, you know, you want to make sure, you know, you're on point with your privacy, or any sort of burglary or anything that could happen. Family come into the room and try to steal something. That's why you got a camera in there. That's nothing. But for the woman to try to justify it to a degree is just like, what are you talking about? This young kid is 12. She has the wherewithal to understand what she did. That's why she positioned the body different, because she understood what she did. That's not no person not being aware of what they done. She knew what she done. We just live in a wicked world where, you know, things like that, certain people, and it's crazy for me even saying this, but certain people don't find that crazy. Just in terms of that act, like a kid, I don't think the kid understood the profundity of what she did. I think she just looked at killing the person as just whatever. You know, certain people have that sort of apathy to things, especially based off of how they brought up. Well, that could be like the norm because of, you know, their cousins and their brothers and, you know, the gang aspect and so on and so forth. Because for the little girl to do that, you can tell that you know, to a degree, she looked at as if it's not an issue, because they said that the girl went back to sleep after she killed the young kid. So it's just kind of like, what? That's beyond wickedness. That is beyond wickedness. And I like the pragmatism that came from the guy, where he said, lock her ass up, because she should be locked up. She was aware of what she did. Plain and simple. It's like, this woman over here talking about the frontal cortex and all that stuff. You don't even understand the cerebral cortex and how that's stronger than the woman. That's why it's important for us to understand and put things in proper perspective when it comes to how women assess things, because sometimes they just come from a minuscule approach where they trying too hard, and it's like, come on. At the end of the day, the person is 12 years old. When I was 12 years old, I had awareness. I knew what I was doing. Just being real. Come on. You was in 7th grade when you was 12 years old. So, you know, you're not that off. You're not, you know, obviously you're going to develop more as you age from 12, but you have the wherewithal. You know what you're doing, you know? So that's not an excuse. Very, very unfortunate situation, though. It just lets you know that we live in a world where the energy is allowing people to do these things. You know, it's permitting people to do these things just based off of this left-hand energy that we under, where it's so much Luciferianism, so much wickedness. It's just so much of just left-hand vibrations. It's just crazy.